Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and this is how to use Drifblim. So, long-time fans of my channel will know how excited I am to be doing this how to use, because Drifblim is one of my favorite Pokemon, and it's such an amazing Pokemon. So when we look at its stats are really fun too. It has the stats of what you'd imagine a balloon would have. That's just huge, airy hit points, 150 base hit points, and defenses aren't that crazy, 44 and 54. Now the cool thing about having so many hit points though is that we'll be able to balance it out into the defenses, and we still have a very tanky Pokemon. 80 and 90 on the attack and special attack isn't really too much, but 80 speed is nice and it is going to help us outspeed some other tanks, so we can use that to our favor. Our typing is going to be a Ghost Flying type. Now unfortunately this does have quite a bit of weakness. Rock, Ghost, Electric, Ice, and Dark, and most of those are pretty common, and we don't have a lot of resistances to trade, but we do get a lot of immunities. That Ghost Flying gives us 3 immunities, so normal, fighting, ground, that's pretty good, and then we still resist poison, bug, and grass, so it balances out okay, but you still do have a concerning amount of weaknesses for a tank. Now hopping into Pokemon Showdown, this is why Drifblim is so hype. It is the only Pokemon that can baton pass a minimize and a stockpile, or just like a minimize with defense boost so well. So this is it right here. You lead with the minimize, you go stockpile to get some defenses up. You can kind of choose when to do what depending on what your opponent has. If your opponent does have a bit more offenses, it might be safer to go with the stockpile then try to get the minimizes out of it. That way you have the base defenses, so if they hit through your evasion, you still have some really good tankiness behind you. And then to use substitute, just kind of wait until you have like a lot of minimize and stockpile stacks, and then use substitute. If they miss, now you get to baton pass a free substitute, and the Pokemon that's coming in pretty much wins. Now, if the Pokemon you bring in has like Belly Drum, Swords Dance, some kind of like extreme quick, Nasty Plot even, some kind of extreme quick stat boosting, now they're unkillable. It's impossible to hit them. If you do hit them, you're not going to do damage, and the only way to really stop this is to get lucky to hit through max evasion, boosted defenses, and then you have to land a crit. Like, it just doesn't happen, and even then, you still have to hit the substitute if that's up as well. Now, what also makes Drifblim so stupidly strong is the Unburden ability. Speed is doubled when your held item is lost, so what we do is we just slap a Citrus Bear on the Drifblim. So you want to take some hits, set up your minimizes, your stockpiles, then you get 25% of your health back. So now you become even harder to kill because now there's more health to take away, and your speed doubles. So what I was thinking is that at level 50, we put 20 points in the speed. That way when your speed doubles, you outspeed 135 base speed Pokemon like Manectric. Manectric can actually threaten you pretty well, so it is good that, you know, you take a hit, you get to outspeed them, and now you outspeed them into +4 on the evasion, and they have to hit you through that, and then you still outspeed them on baton passing and everything, so that's going to be really cool. Now, the interesting thing about Drifblim is because the hit points are so high, we don't even have to touch them. We don't have to touch any of the hit points for investment, and we just have to max out the defense and special defense. So what I was thinking is, since the special defense is higher, we could max out the defense completely, and that's going to really balance out our defenses. Or since when we're looking at it, you know, Dark, Ghost, Electric, Ice, those are generally going to be more special attacks, so we can also throw down a Calm or a Careful nature, and now we have more special defense, and our defenses are still pretty good, and then we just wait to get all those stockpiles going. So the reason why this works so well is because if you look, no investment, 64. Then if we max investment, 96. We're gaining 50% defense off of just that. Now, say if we were to just kind of boost the hit points and stuff, not much of a change. 25 to 57, like, the percent change isn't as much, so that's why we're maxing out the defenses and whatnot. It just boosts so ridiculously. And that's kind of how Drifblim plays. That's why we can just max out the defenses, and now we have a silly, tanky Pokemon that while its defenses aren't that high, with the hit points, it's still a lot of hit points to knock out, and it's just going to be the ultimate support Pokemon. This works in singles or doubles. Now you can also run this Drifblim, or some kind of like variation of it, that what you can do is use Focus Energy. Drifblim gets Focus Energy, and the effects of Focus Energy can be baton passed, so you put this into a sniper Pokemon like Kingdra, or anything that really gets a huge crit boost. It's going to work very well, so stockpile minimize again with all of that, and it's going to be very powerful. Also, another item option is Bright Powder with the Aftermath ability. So you could go for the Unburden and the speed boost, but if you don't really care about that too much, you can just start with an Edge. They're going to have 90% accuracy on all of your opponent's moves to begin with, and then that's just going to stack more and more with minimize. So whenever you use a stat boost, there is always diminishing returns. That for a general stat boost, it goes +1 is 150%, +2 is 200%, +3 is 250%. So you're not getting as much of an impact that if you go +2, that's doubling it, but then if you go +4, it's tripling it for the same amount of effort it took to get to +2. And it's actually more strict whenever you use evasion or accuracy boosting, and we can see that right here at Bulbapedia. So say we go +2 on evasion, that's going to make it to where the accuracy is 3/5 or 60%, and then at +4 it's 43%, and at +6 it's 33%. Having bright powder is going to make this stack really well, so here are the numbers down here for you guys to check it out. And that makes it to where, because of bright powder, you know, you're just getting that little bit extra on top of it. And here's why evasion is balanced. Let's say you're using minimize. It takes 1 turn to use it, so you have 1 turn of punish from your opponent, and your opponent still has the statistical advantage that they have a greater than 50% chance of hitting you at 60%. To take 2 turns of setup, not taking any action against your opponent, 43%, so it's still really close to that 50%, and when you add the odds together, you know, they still have favor for those 2 turns, and then by the 3rd turn, it's finally in your favor, but again, you still haven't taken action against your opponent, and they have a 1 in 3 chance of hitting you with a perfect accuracy move, but to get to that point, it took 3 turns. So on that 4th turn, now you're going to be able to take action against them, but you've been punishable, and the odds are still going to be in favor of your opponent overall throughout like the course of the turns for the setup. So overall, you know, evasion does have that balance to it, that it is a bit suboptimal for quite some time, and then eventually once you get your setup, it works out. And there are things that counter it. Keen Eye, Body Slam. Now, Body Slam isn't going to work against Drifblim, which is a really nice thing. There are a lot of moves like Dragon Rush, things that are meant to counter evasion, so it is a pretty balanced thing when you start to break it down statistically. Like, this is straight up fact that minimize has statistical balance compared to pretty much anything in the game. So that's why you can just kind of run this and then get the most use out of it. Bright Powder is going to add to the evasion frustration, but it's going to make it to where you aren't getting the outspeed, so you need that Bright Powder proc to make it worth it. And then next up, say you don't want to play evasion or anything like that, Drifblim's still pretty cool as a Will-O-Wisp Calm Mind Pokemon. Think about it like a Sableye that's just more health bulk, that what you want to do is you want to come in, you just Calm Mind, Will-O-Wisp, make it to where they can't hit you physically too well, you get your Calm Minds in, so that's going to boost you on the special defense level, and then you just go for rest. So say you get like 2 Calm Minds, take a lot of damage, then you use rest, you heal it up, Chesto Berry procs, now you wake up, Unburden procs, now you're faster than 135 base speed Pokemon, and you can kind of just do whatever you want from there. So Shadow Ball stab and a lot of damage that, you know, we have a base 90 special attack, so if you do want to take the offense, that works really well. Will-O-Wisp Shadow Ball is pretty strong. And if you go up, say, against a normal type Pokemon, you could technically stall them out with the Will-O-Wisp, or you could just kind of run something else. Now, you don't get Dark Pulse, which is interesting, but you do get like Hidden Power Dark, so you can choose a typing that's going to hit everything and have like the least amount of things that resist it. Dark is pretty consistent, Dragon works pretty well, but overall, you know, Shadow Ball, it's just easier to get, and if you're really worrying about normal type Pokemon, you still have a lot of setup potential here, and you can still be pretty strong. And that's it for Drifblim. But mostly where Drifblim's strength comes from is the comboing potential. That imagine a Pokemon that you want to be invincible. That Drifblim grants a pretty reliable gift of invincibility. And that's where it's at. You can use it in singles, doubles, depending on how you have a support Pokemon. You know, you lead with a fake out Pokemon. That's going to be a free minimize or a free stockpile. Then you can keep following it up. You know, things like Quick Guard. What's that other move? You could have like a King's Rock plus Fling, that way you get an extra flinch, so like a 2nd level of Fake Out, and maybe even Sky Drop, so you're pretty much making it to where, you know, Drifblim's trying to get into a setup position, and it is riskier in double. Say if 2 of your Pokemon faint, now you have no Baton Pass targets, since you only bring 4 Pokemon, the 4th one's on the field already, so that's where the risk is, but other than that, you know, you can bring in some fast setup, and then it's really unstoppable. So that's the cool thing about Drifblim. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's how you use Drifblim, one of my favorite Pokemon and favorite strategies that I come up with, and I hope you all have a nice day.